Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sunny Go One Piece podcast. On this episode, we're going to be talking about anime episodes 213 through 216. Yes, that's 4 episodes because these are all fillers. And they won't be covering any manga chapters because, yes, again, they're fillers. And so, yeah, as you know by now, I just want to blow past the filler episodes as quickly as possible. So as a result, this podcast will be another short one, unfortunately. But yes, the crappy poor man's Davy Back Fight episodes. These episodes are why the Davy Back Fight is often underrated and looked poorly upon, because these ones and how they make the story really unbearable to watch. Alright, so the synopsis: with the score evened up, they head into the third game, which is a roller derby style race, which results in their victory and getting Chopper back. However, Luffy unexpectedly agrees to another set of a 3-coin game, resulting in another completely different set of games involving a dodgeball game and a game of red light, green light. So obviously, like I mentioned before, these are all filler, and so there is no difference in this section, so let's just jump right into the thoughts. So with these next 4 episodes being mostly filler, I'll be talking about these in a lot less depth than usual, as there's nothing really here of substance. You can definitely tell these are for the most part filler, as right off the bat, the pacing of episode 213 has slowed way down. It takes the entire first half of the episode for the third event to even begin, with most of it being absolutely nothing of substance, and it's clear it's nothing more than just stalling for stalling's sake. Another instance of this is during episode 214. We see like a good 5 minutes devoted to Zoro riding Sherry to cut down a tree. I feel like that could have been accomplished within like 30 seconds. But yes, seriously, nothing happens other than getting ready for the roller race. It's also repetitive, as it's another race which is similar to the first event with the exact same members. The race itself is also so boring. Nothing really all that interesting happens throughout any of these races. On a completely irrelevant and stupid bit of commentary, I will say, I love saying the name Chiquichita. There's just something about that name that rolls off the tongue, like Chiquichita. So I will give credit where credit's due in that I love the introduction of this character's name. One thing I don't understand about this race, and it makes no freaking sense whatsoever, is that this event should have been a cakewalk with Robin's ability alone. I mean, seriously, think about it. It's a race around a track with the added twist that they're defender racers whose job it is to stop the opposing racer. Why the hell could Robin not just hold the other racer in place with her ability? She literally could have just stood there and used her Hana powers to hold them in place, or at least interfere with them constantly by sprouting limbs on them. And yet she just stands there most of the time at a loss as to what to do, and the only thing she does is to swing Usopp at Chiquichita to stop him. But seriously, why do that when you yourself could easily stop him by sprouting limbs on his feet or something? She does eventually mess with Foxy at the end and prevent him from firing the Noro beam, but there's so much more she could have done to dominate that race. It's just so frustrating and dumb. And I get it that she can't use her powers to her fullest extent, or else the race is going to be boring or there's no conflict or story at all. But if that's the case, then come up with a better story or a better event. That's just bad writing. The rest of the roller race is fine, but ultimately really uninteresting, apart from maybe Usopp and Nami distracting Foxy with a barrage of insults and complaints. They eventually win and get Chopper back, but again, for idiotic reasons and for the sake of fillers, Luffy agrees to more Davy Back Fight games, which is the dumbest thing ever. I mean, with that, they start another set of games, which is dumb because it's just tired at this point. And this is why the Davy Back Fight is so poorly viewed by many anime-only watchers. But in the manga, the Davy Back Fight is actually good and meaningful. Also, it's much more brief. Also, in the story, it just makes no sense for Luffy to do this other than an artificially created one, which I can't really talk about here without spoiling some stuff, so I'll just say it just doesn't make any sense. With another set of games, we move on to the next event, which is surprisingly a relatively normal dodgeball game. This dodgeball game has to be one of the more boring and uninteresting dodgeball games ever. There's literally no tension in this game. There's no flow or back and forth or build up in this game at all. And so it comes across as really bland and boring. The game ends with all the Straw Hats getting taken out by the most ridiculous and uninspired ways, causing them to lose and get Robin stolen away from them. There's also a huge continuity error here, with Chopper eating multiple Rumble Balls in short succession. We will go on to learn that if Chopper does this, it has side effects and it causes a lot of problems. I won't go into it more for fear of spoilers, but the fact they introduce errors like this is just why fillers can be a problem in anime, because eventually the author will introduce things that may contradict them. I will say, if you want to see an amazing and intense game of anime dodgeball, go watch the Greed Island arc of Hunter x Hunter. Easily one of the most amazing games of fictional dodgeball I've ever seen. It is so fun. Actually, just go watch Hunter x Hunter in general. It's an amazing anime. The last event before we actually get to the real canon final round is the game of Red Light, Green Light. And since this game is really boring and not worth talking about all that much, I'll explain a little bit of Japanese culture here, since in the game of Red Light, Green Light they're playing is actually called Daruma-san ga koronda, which is what Tonjit is actually saying as he's looking away as the countdown. And once he's finished saying that phrase, he turns around and anyone caught moving at this point is out. It's essentially a count to 10 as the phrase has 10 syllables. And the phrase Daruma-san ga koronda just means the Dharma doll fell over. Daruma-san, are those round, red, hollowed out dolls that have those intense bearded looking faces on them, usually symbolizing good fortune. And according to Buddhist culture, you fill in the right eye and make a prayer. And if those prayers are answered, you fill in the left eye. And then you need to dispose of the doll properly by bringing it back to the temple or wherever you got it from. Otherwise, bad things will happen. But anyways, the game ends in the most dumb way possible as Zoro causes them to lose by kicking Hamburg up to the top before the weak trio gets to touch Tonjit, creating a scenario where going into the last round, Luffy's now lost 2 Nakama, which will only allow him to get one of them back even if he wins. And that's where the episode ends. So obviously this is a pretty far departure, again setting up the final round. And so instead of being a dead even, where Luffy now is fighting to prevent all of his Nakama from being stolen away, he's now already lost 2 of them. And so it kind of lessens the sort of the impact of certain moments of the fight, particularly one very impactful and epic moment. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about it here, but I'll talk about it on the next podcast. But yeah, it just kind of changes the dynamic slightly. Overall, this is really kind of a nitpick on my part. It really doesn't change too much, but it's just, I don't know, the context is different. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of these 4 episodes. And like I said, I really don't like these filler episodes, especially since they're so integrated into the canon story, you can't even really skip them like you can with the other ones. Needless to say, I am really happy we are past these episodes and we can finally get back to the real main event heading into the next set of episodes, which is Luffy versus Foxy. And we will cover that in the next podcast. But yeah, if you did enjoy this, send me a like or comment. And if you want to join me on this journey of rewatching One Piece, please consider subscribing. Check out my Instagram and Twitter account at SunnyGo Podcast if you want updates of when I post new episodes or see some pictures of my manga collection. Please check those out. As always, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to listen to my podcast and I hope to see you on the next episode. No spoilers section. I know I mentioned that there might be some spoilers, but they're just not really worth talking about it here since I'm just going to be mentioning it in the next podcast. So yeah, for now, I will say bye.